Hello everyone. Now, before starting this channel, I'd never been someone who would test their paints. What I mean is that I'd never paint out swatches or colour wheels or anything like that. I tend to just get the paints and then do a painting with them. But since starting the channel, I think I've realised that they are useful exercises and can definitely help you to understand the pigments and how they interact better. So today's video is going to be a mixing exercise. I'm going to be testing my blues and yellows together and see what kind of greens we get. So I've got the blues I'm going to use listed across the top. The first is Cotman Intense Blue, which is PB15. That's a green shade, I believe. Then Rembrandt Phthalo Blue Red shade, which is also PB15. Then Mugello Prussian Blue, which is PB27. Then Rembrandt Cerulean Blue, I've got PB36 written there, but it's actually PB35. Then Rembrandt Cobalt Blue, PB28. Then Rembrandt Ultramarine Deep, which is PB29. Then Rembrandt Indanthrene Blue, which is PB60. Then Payne's Grey, which is PBK6. And PB15. And I have my yellows listed down the side. First we've got Van Gogh Azomethine Green Yellow, which is PY129. Then Mugello Lemon Yellow, which is PY3. Then Rembrandt Cadmium Yellow Lemon, which is PY35. And Mugello Permanent Yellow Deep, which is PY65. And Holbein Quinacridone Gold, PO48 and PY150. Then Rembrandt Yellow Ochre, which is PY43 and PY42. And finally Rembrandt Raw Umber, which is PBR7. Okay, so time to start mixing. There's going to be nothing scientific about this test. I'm just going to mix each of the yellows with each of the blues and see which kind of greens I get. There's no set quantities or anything. Obviously, if you add more yellow, you're going to get a more yellow green. If you add more blue, you're going to get a more blue green. But for this, I'm just going to see what comes out. So I'm going to start by mixing the Van Gogh Azomethine Green Yellow with each of the blues. And then I'll talk about each green we get at the end. So that's the Van Gogh Azomethine Green Yellow mixed with all my blues. I think they all look pretty good. Yeah, I actually think I like all of them. Maybe the Payne's Grey one isn't that great, but it might have its uses. I'd say my favourite is probably the mix with the Cobalt Blue. I think that one is really quite natural looking. Also the Prussian Blue is quite nice too. Okay, so now moving on, I'm going to mix the Mugello Lemon Yellow with all the blues, and again I'll take a look at them after. Okay, so with the lemon yellow, I'd say I'm not a huge fan of the mixes with the cooler blues, with the phthalos or with the Prussian blue. They do look a bit acidic. With the cerulean blue is okay, not amazing, but with the warmer blues, with the cobalt and the ultramarine and the indanthrine and even the Payne's grey, I quite like these ones. I think they'll be quite useful. So now moving on to the Rembrandt cadmium yellow lemon is PY35. I wonder how different these will be from the PY3 lemon yellow. So let's take a look. I'd say the mixes do look pretty similar between the two lemon yellows. I know the cobalt blue and ultramarine mix looks darker, but I think that's just because I added more blue to the mix. They do look a tiny bit more opaque, but that's to be expected when mixing with a cadmium colour. Okay, so now it's time to try all the blues with the Magello Permanent Yellow Deep, which is PY65. Now this Permanent Yellow Deep is of course a warm yellow, so that means it's closer to orange than it is to green on the colour wheel. So that means we will get much more neutralised greens, and of course you can see that with all these lovely olive green colours. Again, I think my favourite is the mix with the cobalt blue and also the Prussian blue. That looks very nice too. Any others? Yeah, the ultramarine's pretty nice. The indanthrine blue's pretty nice as well. Yeah, quite nice olive greens. Now it's time for the quinacridone gold, which is PO48 and PY150. Now, quinacridone gold is a relatively recent discovery for me. I'd heard people talk about it in the past, how good it is, but I'd never bothered using it for myself because warm yellows are not really my thing. But the greens it makes, they're just the kind of greens I like. You know, they're muted, but I don't know, they have more life to them than other muted greens. I don't know what it is, but I just like it. Now it's time for the Rembrandt Yellow Ochre. This is the kind of yellow I usually mix my greens with. I tend to like the earth colours more just because they're more natural. So that's all the yellow ochre green mixes. They're all pretty neutralized, but that's to be expected as it's an earth color and it's pretty warm. My usual green mix would be yellow ochre and phthalo blue red shade. Of course I painted it a bit dark here, but usually the green it gives me is pretty nice. I do like that one a lot. Now we come to the final yellow, which is Rembrandt Raw Umber, PBR 7. In Rembrandt, this raw umber is pretty yellow. I think in other brands it can be a lot darker brown. I think this one's discontinued now as well. I think they've replaced it with a greenish raw umber, I think. Yeah, I want to paint this one out just to show the interesting greens and greys you can get from it. I do like the greens and greys I get from this raw umber. The raw umber and phthalo blue red shade mix is one I often use. Yeah, I do like that a lot. So here they all are, photographed in daylight. Each of these mixes is just one yellow and one blue mixed together, but of course this is not the only greens you would get from each mix. Just by adding more yellow or more blue, then the mix could vary wildly. Yeah, you should really just experiment with the ratios and just see what you like the best. Of course, just mixing the two pigments together is not all there is to mixing greens. You can always add a third or a fourth pigment. Sometimes a touch of red is great because it can neutralize the green a bit and make it a little bit more natural. I think if I wanted to show that, the chart would be pretty enormous, so I think I'm going to leave it here for now. So what are some of your favourite pigments for mixing greens? I'm sure some of you are going to say PY150. That's a pigment I've wanted to try for a while but never got round to. Yeah, I'll make a change to that in the future. I would say of these ones, my favourite is probably the Van Gogh Azomethine Green Yellow and the Holbein Quinacridone Gold. I think they made excellent greens with all the blues. I'm even quite tempted to rearrange my palette and include both of them. Yeah, we'll see. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.